Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for clicking on this video. I am filming this for the second time today because I realized as I was editing that I had turned on my camera's microphone and not this guy right here. So great, good news for me. So hopefully, this one is bigger, badder, and too much for Mr. Incredible. So let's get into it. I am reviewing the book, Make It Stick, because today we're going to learn how to learn. Apparently, I didn't know all the effective ways to learn. Here is that book right here. The Science of Successful Learning by Peter C. Brown, Henry L. I'm gonna fudge this name up. Roediger III, Henry L. Roediger III, maybe. Mark A. McDaniel. Okay, so we've got 3 authors. So how could this be a bad book? I mean, come on. Anyway, one quick note is that I got this recommendation from Chris Williamson, not personally, although that would have been cool. He has a video called 10 Books That Really Changed My Life, and I'll show you where I got this. Chris Williamson, this is that man, and he's got some good stuff. Highly encourage you to look into him if you haven't already. 10 Books That Really Changed My Life. So embedded in his video description is a greater list. I think it's like 100 books long, and one of those 100 books is this book, Make It Stick. To get that list, you just have to give him your email, and he'll send you that list, and you get a whole other bunch of cool stuff from him as well. Good content to go over. So that's where I got it. Okay, so let's get down to business to defeat the Hun. So what's going on here is, first and foremost, the book wants to point out that common knowledge or conventional wisdom that is, reported by experts is not exactly 100% correct all of the time. So I suppose that's a very polite way of putting that. They're all wrong, so don't listen to them. No, I'm just kidding. Expert opinions are very handy to have. I'm just saying that they're not always correct, but they're experts. So it's like, I guess, who are we going to listen to? But it's good to be an independent thinker and to question that and to figure out your own way. So now we know common knowledge and conventional wisdom isn't exactly on, it's not on some untouchable, unquestionable plane. So knowing that, this book goes into what they deem as more effective, more long-term successful methods of learning. And the way that they are able to judge that is they've done numerous studies over time, and, they've quizzed, they've tested students, and they've asked teachers as well what seems to be most effective. And these stories are pretty revealing, I think. So the biggest thing that I learned from this book is that the most effective way of learning is something called interleaving. What interleaving is, if you can just picture things being stitched together like a quilt or whatever the heck you want to stitch together. What you do is you take concepts and you weave them. And so obviously in a stitch, you'll see part of that stitch go underneath another piece, and then it'll resurface later. And that's exactly how these authors have laid out the best way to learn. And what we do is we take a concept and we study it and we read about it, we quiz ourselves later, and then we kind of put it to bed for a minute. Then we take another concept and we bring that into the fold. We study it and we quiz ourselves, and then we put it away. And then that concept that we had at first, we bring that back up again. And we just, we keep on going. We keep folding it through and interleaving it together. That seems to be a really, really effective way of learning. They point out that you're not supposed to let a ton of time go by when you take a break from a concept. You kind of have to figure out for yourself what that sweet spot is. It'll take time. It's not like it's some immediate gratification thing. It'll take time for you to develop the knowledge, but it's worth it if you want to be able to have success long term and kind of recall all these things, kind of from your mental library and be able to call upon them when you need them. If your goal is like long-term retention and comprehension, and you want to articulate your ideas very well, then interleaving your learning seems to me, after reading this book, is the most effective way in doing that. One of the best ways to learn and make it stick, so to speak, is utilizing your knowledge in different contexts, right? You want to take what you know and apply it to a situation over here, so situation A and situation B and situation C. And you kind of make sure that you're able to do that and recall that in different contexts, because the meaning of what you know could change and it could evolve, which is pretty cool when it does. I mean, it's a cool feeling when you have a concept in your head and it's kind of transcended into something else in a different context. And that's what interleaving can help you do. Once you get it to stick with you over time, you'll be able to recall call it in different contexts, because traditional rules of learning, like memorization and underlining and highlighting, like that's such an immediate gratification. What that does is it makes you feel really good because you're like, oh, I can feel this. I am putting the pen to the paper. I can feel the page touching my highlighter or touching my pen. And you're like, this is great. Like, this is working. It's so sensory. I'm really learning right now. And I mean, in the short term, sure, you want to cram for an exam, you want to feel good about yourself. Maybe it works, but it's sure taking a chance is what it seems like to me. This short-term memorization or cramming the night before, if your goal is long-term retention, I would not recommend. I think, 1 out of 10 recommend. Those numbers aren't official, just that's what I'm saying. I do want to emphasize the authors make a point to say there is not some one-size-fits-all way of learning. There isn't some magic formula they've figured out. There are other ways of learning that are effective, I'm sure, that they did not talk about here, but it seems that interleaving learning is one of the most effective ways for anybody to learn. Now, something they noted, and I think something that's probably fairly easy to see, is that lately teachers have been making learning, they're trying to make it easier and faster when, as the book lays out the evidence for this, that it's better to learn when it's harder and it takes longer. The harder it is for you to dig in your mind and retrieve a piece of information, and you actually end up reaching for it and then finally getting it, that right there, that is what works. Like, that's a powerful thing that will stick. Now, this whole interleaving learning and, it being a process and things like that, that can seem kind of daunting, and it can seem like it just takes too much time. And it takes a lot of time for this to work, but it's much more rewarding. And in the long term, interleaving learning can have massive payoffs for you. You don't get the instant gratification. It can feel slow. It can seem non-existent, but getting that 1% better every day, that's what it's about, because learning is not a linear thing, right? It's going to start here, and then all of a sudden it's going to go way up. Practice how you play. You get out of it what you put into it. Now, before we move on to the last point I want to talk about from the book, if you could please like the video, comment down below, let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear if you think that this whole thing is just a crock of you-know-what, or, if you agree with some of the methods of learning and found them to be effective for you. I'd love to know your thoughts. And if you could please subscribe to my channel, there will be more content coming soon. Can't wait to share that with you, but let's get back to the action. The last point I wanted to talk about, and I kind of touched on this earlier, is don't be afraid to fail. I feel like in today's culture, there's a huge emphasis on everybody needing to succeed because it feels good. Well, failure can be one of the best teachers in life. And the book talks about this, and they mention that Silicon Valley, where a lot of the smartest people in the world reside, right? They make all these cool new things, and all these tech companies launch, social media outlets and things like that. So what happens is there's this huge conference where a bunch of the people in Silicon Valley get together, and all they do is talk about their failures. They literally, over the course of a year, they compile what they've done wrong, and they talk about it. So I thought that was really cool. It was really cool to say that, failure is something that's human. We all do it. And it's good to show that that's a thing. Because today, it's like we're just becoming so, I don't know, we don't want to, we want this society of everybody feeling good and everybody succeeding. And it's like, okay, sure, that's noble. But I mean, come on, let's be realistic. Everyone's going to fail at some point, and it's okay. So I thought that was really cool. So again, the book is called Make It Stick. I highly recommend it. If you're somebody who doesn't have a problem with learning, then maybe it's not the appropriate read for you. If you're someone who struggles with it, or you think that, maybe you're getting by okay, but you think you can reach a higher level of learning, then this might help you out. So I recommend it. It's got some great nuggets in there, a lot of which I didn't cover today. So I encourage you to check it out. And again, let me know after you read it in the comments what your thoughts were. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time.